Since last year's protests have started in Serbia, many of the people that we do consultations with or become clients are asking what is the future of Serbia's economic growth look like? And things like the protests, United States sanctions on certain companies really will fog up the mind. However, the EU Commission has come out with a report just this month talking about the prosperity of Serbia and what it looks like for this year and into next. So you're going to want to stay tuned for this video. Now, it's not hard to think that, hey, listen, there's a lot of protests going on here, blockades of the roads. The United States is sticking their nose again into something that doesn't belong, such as Serbia and Serbian companies and who they partner with. And so you might think that the Serbian economy is on a downward trend, even though that they posted last year one of the best GDP growths in all of Europe, beating all of the European countries out there. The European Commission forecasted a continued strong growth in the GDP for Serbia for this year and into next year. And so I want to quickly read an article from the Serbian Monitor as to what they see and what they are forecasting when it comes to that. The European Commission predicts that Serbia's economy will continue to grow robustly while also pointing out risk on both domestic and international fronts, including the threat to potential U.S. sanctions against the petroleum industry of Serbia, which is niche. I have talked to you about this on previous videos where the United States is trying to sanction this company because they are majority owned Russian ownership, right? And so they are trying to say, hey, listen, because you have relations with Russia, that in the West, they're thinking, hey, Russia is bad all the time, not understanding Serbia's relationship with Russia and how much we rely on them. They're still trying to destabilize that company or Serbia in some sense by imposing sanctions. The article further goes on and says, in the European Commission spring economic forecast, Serbia is projected to see gross domestic product growth by 3.2% in 2025 and 3.8% in 2026. Now, these are a little lower than what they were last year. Last year, they were about 3.9 to 4.2, depending on what articles you're reading. The Commission expects Serbia's economic growth to remain largely driven by domestic demand thanks to increasing investments and private consumption supported by a strong labor market. And I've explained this to you before that Serbia does have a strong labor market, especially when it comes to IT and manufacturing. There are some markets out there that are struggling with workers, such as the construction industry, which they are seeing a lot of foreign workers coming into Serbia on that end. Regarding risk to growth, it is noted that demand in the Euro countries, Serbia's key trading partners, particularly Germany, remains weak. And I can understand why that is because Germany isn't doing so well themselves when it comes to their economy. It is also stated that economic sentiment from January to April this year steadily deteriorated due to months of political unrest, protests, and student-led blockades. Now, I don't know what this actually means, but the blockades aren't every day here. My day-to-day life has not changed from doing what I need to do. Yes, there are protests every day from 12 to 12:15. They block certain sections, but as long as you know that's what's happening every day, you can work your way around. But it's not like the country has come to a standstill because of these blockades. The report further states that the strong inflow of foreign direct investment, the backbone of Serbia's economic expansion, could suffer from wanting investors' confidence amid ongoing political uncertainty, while the implementations of public investment may face delays. And this is exactly what I was talking about, is that a lot of the foreign investors are a little wary because of what's going on here. However, just looking around, you see a lot of companies still moving into Serbia. You see a lot of construction, a lot of real estate going up, and the real estate is doesn't seem to be holding back. I see a lot of new factories being built, both in Belgrade and Novi Sad. So uh, there could be a little bit of investors that are pulling back, but at the same time, those that are continuing to move forward, I believe they're going to see huge returns in the future, especially once 2027 Expo happens here in Serbia, which is to draw, I believe, 4 million people into Serbia alone within the 3 months that it's happening. Global trade tensions and the threat to potential U.S. sanctions against Nice presented additional challenges to Serbia's growth prospects. And, this is something that has been going on. It feels like just as long as the protest has been going on, but they keep on delaying those sanctions. And I honestly don't think that that's something that's going to be imposed in the long run. But at the same time, I know a gentleman who works for Nice, and he says all the reserves are full. So if there were ever sanctions here, we'd be good for at least half a year, if not a year, when it comes to petroleum. Among Western Balkan countries, Albania is expected to have the highest GDP growth in 2025 at 3.6%, followed by Montenegro and North Macedonia with 3% each, and Bosnia and Herzegovina with 2%. Now, what I want to say is that I don't know much about what's happening in these other countries. Some people have asked, hey, listen, what do you think about moving to Albania, Montenegro, so on and so forth? I can't really say anything on that because I don't live there and I don't know what's going on there. So I'm not exactly sure when it comes to that. But I do know that Serbia last year alone outperformed all EU countries, and Serbia alone is the economic powerhouse of the Balkans. And I'll have some comments coming into the YouTube video here from people in Serbia saying ekonomski tiger and this and that. But you have to understand, and most of the Balkan countries here in Serbia do understand that it is the economic powerhouse here. For 2026, the Commission forecasts growth of 3.5% for Albania, 3.2% for Montenegro, and 2.3% for Bosnia and Herzegovina, and 3.1% for North Macedonia. Across the 27 EU member states, the Commission anticipates GDP growth of 1.1% in 2025 and 0.9% in the Eurozone, both at the same level as in 2024. So again, the Balkan area is somewhere that you really want to look at investing if you're looking to invest. The Canadian market, even, I just looked at the stats there, they had a 0.5 GDP growth in the last 10 years. So essentially, their economy is stale, right? They're not actually doing anything there. And so I do believe that going forward, if you are looking to leave somewhere that you are not seeing a prosperity in your life or any sort of growth in your life and you're struggling, you may want to consider Serbia as a next move to invest. The real estate here is something that is still quite affordable. They are going up both in Belgrade and Novi Sad, but if you're looking for something outside in the villages, they're still relatively affordable. If you're looking to set up any sort of business, I would still highly recommend you doing that, especially with investors looking at it as being hesitant because of what's going on here. If you can look past that hesitancy and actually put your foot in the door and get here before everyone else comes in, I think you're going to see a lot better returns than if you show up to that party late. And the last thing that I want to touch on in this article is that, on the other hand, future de escalation of EU US trade tensions or faster expansion of EU trade with other countries, including uh, though new free trade agreements could have a positive impact on growth as well. And increased defense spending could also contribute positively, according to the Commission, which highlights that deepening the single market, a savings and investment union, the implementations of ambitious reform agenda to simplify procedures could further strengthen the EU economy's resilience. Now, what EU is actually doing with the Russia-Ukraine war right now, I don't see how they're going to be um, doing any better, especially just because they're increasing their defense spending. What they're increasing their defense spending to send it to Ukraine, which actually gets funneled back into the U.S. And at the same time, people want to ask the question, hey, what is the projection for Serbia joining the EU? And to me, I don't think that that's going to be happening. I honestly think Serbia is just, you know, putting lipstick on a pig and saying, hey, listen, we're going to keep it kosher with you just so that we can receive some of that funding. And joining the EU would not be something that would be great. It's something that would actually be detrimental, because if you looked at the last countries that have joined, they're actually not doing so well. And joining the EU now would be like showing up to a party that has run its course, 3 a.m., music sucks, everyone's left, food is gone, and there's nothing else to look forward to. So, what are your thoughts on when it comes to the economic growth of Serbia? And what do you have plans for when you move to Serbia? I know I've had a lot of people reaching out that they're looking into property development here, looking to set up factories, and we're looking forward to working with them currently and in the future as they get their all their ducks in a row. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.